At this point, we were basically going into mech-on-mech combat, so I had this idea, and I had to consult the GM before I executed it. But ultimately, I rode out in my war mech, on top of Gwen's war mech, launching from the Black Turtle, while blasting music from Macross 7. And I was like, guys, this is how you stunt. Take notes. One of the
Pretty
coolest
much.
things I managed to pull off in the entire campaign, I'd say.
Pretty much.
Oh, and I sold Wolkenstein into temporary prostitution because Alabaster Albatross showed up and tried to harass me. And I was like, here, have a slab of man beef. Will this get you out of my way? And she's like, oh ho, it will, indeed. And I'm like, neat. Bye. Oh. We re-recruited Valentinian at this point, and the Scarlet speaking, oh hey, Valley, I have good news and bad news. Which do you want to hear first? The bad, I guess. Maxwell's dead. I might have decapitated him. Oh no, how sad. Good news is you get to be the maid of honor at my wedding. Wait, what? That's when we sold Magpie to the Ebon Dragon, because we had this guard demon who, as long as he was under the light of the green sun, was unkillable. But the thing is, the green sun doesn't set. Ever. So...
Yep. In order to cast a shadow and not have him be in the light of the green sun, we had to curry the favor of the dragon shadow, one of the other titans. So we did.
Yep, that's when we sold Magpie for 24 hours, which gave us 24 hours of darkness over the guard.
Yep.
And the circle will change the tune of the joke. Dewey's force you to play Super Smash Brothers Brawl with tournament rules.
Mm-hmm.
So we actually go to Super Happy Fun Land after it had changed hands, because Master became more hands-off. And we actually got to meet Master Sun. Now here's the thing about Exalts and their children. If an Exalt makes Babu with something like Kekaline, the end result is essentially a super powerful demon.
Mm-hmm.
And so we met Aladdin, who was Master's son, and the riddle that he gave us was when the GM knew that our biggest problem was that Valentinian and Scarlet would overthink the situation, and that Magpie and Wolkenstein didn't think. So you kind of see where puzzles like this might go, when he was like, it was the thing that was most valuable to my father. And we're like, oh crap, that could be a lot of different things. And we even suggested taking Aladdin with us, and he's like laughs at us. He's like, no, it's not me. I'll just tell you that for like flat out, it's not me. And thankfully, it turns out it was essentially, you know, Scrooge McDuck's number one dime. It was basically that. Scrolling on ahead. That's when we have the mech battle. Oh, right. This is where Magpie made me want to murder her. Because we were heading to the south. We were heading to the town of Mint, which had a money mint there, which was the hint that the coin came from Mint. And the GM asks us, oh, okay, you guys need any last-minute things? And Magpie decides that she wants to get snacks. And asks for caramel popcorn in the Bronze Age.
Now, you have to understand, Exalted is kind of schizophrenic in like what technologies are commonplace and what aren't. But basically, food at this point is pretty Bronze Age in terms of technology. So, yeah, you can understand that this is not something you can just get.
Yeah, and I had to explain, I'm like, they're not going to have it. It's essentially the Bronze Age. And Magpie tries to be like, oh, well, Erelak. And I'm like, no, they wouldn't have it. That's a luxury good. Sugar itself would be a luxury, let alone caramelizing it, of all things. And they probably wouldn't even waste the corn in order to make popcorn. Like, it went on and on. And I'm just like, I'm going to, like, have to murder somebody because I want this campaign to end already.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the story really didn't go on too much further. There was a few battles in Mint that were fairly small scale, and we somehow went to Mars. I'm not even sure how we got there, and it's also unclear in Exalted lore if Mars is a place you can actually go. I think the most interesting thing in that fight was we had to battle all the past incarnations of Valentinian. Because this is a world that runs on reincarnation, and, like, the people of this world are aware that's a fact. And so we had to fight, like, different variants of Valentinian's past lives, which was one of the more interesting fights in the entire thing. And I Scarlet managed to parry a spear using her butt, and then I got to use the term, I bust out mad twerking moves in order to use the spear in assault. And I think the GM has yet to forgive me for having done that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not sorry. It wasn't long after, I think that's when the campaign ended, according to my notes, and it was kind of to the point where we're like, okay, we all know what's going to happen. The One Piece is either going to be something Scarlet absolutely wants, like a ton of money, or it's going to be like a doomsday weapon or something she absolutely does not want. Valentinian had found all the other Oath Warriors, and Vulcanstein and Magpie would be thrown down some steps. So it actually ended up closing prior to us actually bringing the Saga to a close, per se, but it was just very much a formality, crossing the T's, dotting the I's.
Yeah.
Which is a shame. Scarlet and Valentinian are still some of my favorite characters that we have created up to this point.
Then there was our D&D game.
Yep. And we decided, well, kind of, we were going to attempt to follow Joe Cat's advice and make the A-Men a party of nothing but holy class heroes. And unfortunately, that didn't actually end up happening as we lost some players early on. Well, let's see. My character was Laga, who was a half-orc solar cleric who followed a homebrew deity, St. Helbram. And I kind of wanted to make her an example of, like, no, guys, seriously, rules are meant to be broken. So I basically made a half-orc who was a total goody-goody and actually had a very healthy home life. Because I'm like, guys, saying that a race is always one particular alignment is dumb and bad writing. So stop treating D&D like the pinnacle of fantasy authorship, because it's not.
Yeah, and the entire thing being is that it's not about, a race is that. It's more like a culture will be, inclined towards a certain behavior. And so yeah, just the entire joke of, oh yeah, my mother is an orc and my father is a human. Well, that's and they actually are like have a healthy relationship with each other. Yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy. Um, but I mean, considering how wild the rest of the world is, uh, I mean that it's kind of crazy in and of itself. Should I go into that or should you?
No, by all means. I've been talking a lot for the end of that last campaign, so I'll pass the torch to you.
Well, okay. So I was trying to make something that was a would be entertaining to the more kind of ADHD amongst our group, and I was thinking to myself, what do they like? Well, they like dinosaurs. They like dragons. I know. I will have a world that is entirely dinosaur. Like every creature they encounter are dinosaurs and dragons. Here's the thing, though. I really don't like the Dragonborn, and I really don't like Tieflings. So I'm like, you know what? Those two races I'm not going to allow. They... The astrology isn't good for them. They just get sick and just slowly are poisoned or something. The dragon energy in the world is too much or whatever. So, yeah, basically it's this very, very primal, very violent world where there are these large walled cities and just wilderness wild wilderness outside. It really didn't turn out ultimately that way. Uh, but it's neither here nor there. You'll learn things along the way. Something I learned was going, oh yeah, there's this doomsday clock. It's not a good idea for paranoid players because they're going to go, oh my god. I was thinking it would be, oh yeah, this is just kind of a gentle reminder. Yet, you got 7 days until the boss is going to show up. Whereas the players are thinking, I only have a week until a boss shows up. Oh no.
I was
And
excited
so,
for the
are they
boss
going to...
fights. They were like, guys, we have to sit here and do nothing. And I'm like, guys, we don't know what the nature of the disaster is. We might as well start preparing for it.
Yes. So, it led to, a few interesting situations. For instance, there were a number of young women who were just being kidnapped by this group of goblins, and they were going to be the quote unquote 4 sacrifices, and this was very, very concerning to people. Very,
Okay,
very
there is a
concerning.
very special asterisk I need to conclude here. Laga, my character, could speak the language of imps, goblins, and other green races because of her heritage. That's just like a racial bonus she got. So I was doing most of the translation work for this leg of the game because no one else in the party spoke these languages but me.
Right.
So there we are, going, oh my god, there are goblins, and they're going to sacrifice these maidens. And by the way, my sidekicks were a male drow who was a pawn shop owner for the mafia, and he was just kind of lazy. Like, he didn't really want to leave his shop very much. And then there's Kaz, who was our Eric Hokra monk. And wherever you are, Kaz, screw you for making me look up how you spell Eric Hokra, because it's an obnoxious word to spell. And he had 20 on dexterity, so he tried to make everything dexterity based. And
Everything.
he didn't know how monk mechanics were actually supposed to work, so I had to look up a guide for him. And I'm like, dude, I should not know your class better than you do, because I'm the freaking
Well, to be
cleric.
perfectly honest, he was trying to get one past me, and I honestly let things slide that I shouldn't have initially just because I'm like, oh, you know what? It's fine. It's fine. You shouldn't really say no to your players. No, sometimes you need to say no. And when they're trying
Yeah.
to get 20 attacks with flurry of blows and like spend like 5 key points, no, no, no. You don't get to do that. Sorry. Sorry, not sorry on that one there, Kaz.
So we head out, and we're like, okay, we're going to scout out the meeting place where this sacrifice is going to take place. And I'm going to mimic the voice of the orc god in order to convince them to let the sacrifices go. And that way we can save them. And I do this, and I'm like, you should not do this. This is an abomination. And this random person shouts at me. It's like, how dare you call our band terrible? We just started. And I'm like, what? Because my DM pulled a fast one on me, and we didn't read between the lines that the 4 sacrifices was the name of a band. Because while I was building Laga, I wryly observed that several languages, including that of goblins and dwarves and orcs and the like, all use the same alphabet. And so
Hmm.
he kind of dryly observed, he's like, oh, it's like how a lot of East Asian languages are originally based on Old Mandarin Chinese. And I was like, oh, that's a cute little tidbit of information to tuck away for later. So he then enlightens us that it was a G-pop band, Goblin Pop, and I'm just like, I'd be angry, but that's so clever, and it's partly my fault that you came up with that idea. So well played.
Uh, and I was laughing for like 5 minutes, and I'm just
Yeah,
like,
you
I can
were.
imagine you guys just like the looks on your face, and you're just all like, your mouths agape, just, oh my god, I can't believe. Oh, and you all fell for it too. Oh man.
Yeah. Yeah, we did. And I think next was Lucius actually joined us, a human. Was he a
Yeah, I
paladin?
believe it's you. Lucius joined. Um, you went to hell for a session.
Yep.
This is um not like place of punishment hell, like the Dominion of Demons.
Yeah.
Uh, the Glittering Pits, a place of horror and well, hedonism.
Oh, that's right. So this is when the witch had her man kidnapped, and we had to infiltrate the house,
Hmm.
and we completely botched a puzzle that the DM had set up for us.
Hmm.
Not to mention, our stupid monk repeatedly failed his stealth attempts and knocked over an entire bookcase on me. So that was a thing that
Yeah,
happened.
that's
And
although that was perfect. It was no, it wasn't Lucius. It was Garmat, wasn't it?
no, it was still Lucius. Garman didn't join till later.
Yeah,
Garman and Black Bay were later.
yeah.
And we were given a puzzle about about the Lord of the Manor. And the DM had repeatedly been like, there are books in the library, and books are full of information. Hint, hint. A hint that none of us took. Because I have the actual exchange written down. Money? No. Getting laid? No. Love? Technically, yes. It was his 12 wives, but whatever. The DM, after pointing out how stupid we had been. Let's see, then. That's when Lucius opened the treasure chest, and an annoying little cat man who might be familiar to you viewers at home, called a Pugum, pops out of the chest and goes, "I'm an alarm," and starts making noise. Lucius goes, "No, you're not. You're my best friend." And after rolling a 20 on charisma, the Pugum goes, "I am? Yay!"
So he just had Pugum as his sidekick.
That was a wonderful moment of glory.
Yes, I was not prepared for that. I was like, all right, you guys have botched pretty much every puzzle I've thrown against you. Let's see how you're going to deal with this. And I was not prepared. I was not prepared for that.
And we turned it around somehow, mostly thanks to Lucian's quick thinking. And
Yes.
then yes, this is when we got a vision quest from Granzine the Gale, a mysterious winged man, clad in mask, who has come to show Kaz his destiny. And Kaz had some commitment issues about the whole thing. And yeah, along the way, we encounter this little volleyball made of fur, kind of like a Digimon almost. And the DM's like, "Oh, this is a local monster." And without really taking the time to do any threat assessment, our stupid Aarakocra attacks it. And then it breathes fire. And because he just cartwheels out of the way, because dexterity 20, I'm the only one in the party who took damage and lost 3/4 of my health in one hit. Not that I'm mad. Why would I be mad?
You're not mad.
I am furious.
It's happened 2 years ago, dude. You gotta let it go.
I know. And then we went into the cave of really, really stupid traps.
I remember
I'm
this.
going to let you tell this story, and I'll just make any comments that need to be added as per my notes, because you had sadistic glee setting this one up.
Yeah, well, see, here's the problem. I just I have certain I just have certain opinions. I absolutely hate most D&D basic lore. It is so trite. So the entire thing about but I love the idea of kobolds. Just these awful little dragon men who are incredibly weak despite the fact that they are supposedly dragons. And they love traps. I'm like, that is, you could do so much with that. So there's this colony of kobolds, and they have their minds, and they're just laid to the brim with traps and ways that they can attack intruders. And it just becomes incredibly passive aggressive. Not lethal, just incredibly passive aggressive to my intrepid adventuring party, where it starts with fake spiders, and they're like, "What is it? What is it? What dropped at us? What's going on? What are we under attack? What's going?" And it's like they pause for a second and look at what actually fell on them, and they realize they're rubber spiders, and they go, "Oh, oh, ha ha, oh, okay, all right. I
Oh
bet these."
no, it gets better because that trap sprung on me. And so I'm like, you're now imagining this Amazon of a woman clad in heavy armor, mace, shield, and helmet, shrieking like a small girl and running in circles as these rubber spiders come down on her because she thinks they're real.
Yes. And I believe the drow got hit with a
Oh, the
with
sleeping dart, yeah.
not a sleeping dart. Was it a sleeping dart? I thought it was a dark
It's like,
dart.
oh, it's like a hallucinogen.
Yeah.
And so he basically goes full Lucy in the sky with diamonds as he's laying there on the ground drooling.
Um. Yeah, and there was I believe I had one where you actually had to spell out certain gods' names.
Yeah,
I
you
didn't
did
do
an
the bit
Indiana
obviously.
Jones. You did
And
an
also
Indiana
there's the
Jones.
penitent man. I did that one as well.
Yep,
I didn't do the leap of faith though. I didn't do that to you guys.
that's true.
But yeah, and then it turns out ultimately that the dragon that they were going to fight was actually a teenager who was basically running away from home and trying to get back at her mom.
Yep. And Laga flexed the us girls, am I right angle and actually convinced her to, like, share her name and start talking with us.
Okay, so don't kill people. Oh, I wasn't going to do that anyway. I was just, going to go threaten some local farmers because, yeah, that's what dragons do, right?
Yep.
So,
And
yeah,
we were able to ask her not to do that by basically promising to buy her the prettiest dress for the ball.
yes.
And around this time, I realized Laga was kind of boring. I mean, I was playing her as a very straight, goody goody character in a team of very amoral sociopaths, but I wasn't really getting the vibe I was hoping for. So I created my own new character, Black Bay, the paladin of the Warker peoples who are in a homebrew race made by Jitaku. And he was fun. Imagine Crom from Fire Emblem and just really, really into giving heroic speeches. That was Black Bay.
Mm-hmm.
And I think around that time is also when Noodle swapped over to Garman.
Oh, yes.
That's when we also fought the giant jelly cube monster, and Kaz got really butt mad because he tried to basically he rammed a spear into a gigantic gelatinous cube and then was surprised that he couldn't retrieve it.
Yep. Well, here's the thing. When you explained your GM, okay, so I'm going to stab this thing, as hard as I can, Oh, and by the way, this thing is barbed, so that means it deals extra damage. Okay. All right, then I pull it out. No, you don't. What do you mean you don't?
That's
It's
not
barbed,
how
right?
suction works.
And it's barbed, right? Yeah. So it does extra damage. Yeah, about that. It's also that means that you're not going to get it back. Sorry there, friendo. You're not that strong to begin with, and also, yeah. I was getting a little bit tired of Kazadon's.
Yeah. And funny note, I was actually doing my damage calculations wrong, and I wasn't including my strength mod in the final result. And I was still doing more damage than him as a paladin.
Well, I mean, it makes sense. Your strength was way higher than he was, and you were dual wielding, or you were two-handing a weapon, as I recall.
Yep. So I was using a
So,
hand and a half sword, and I was choosing to put both hands on the hilt.
mm.
And
so
we beat the first boss, which went well, and we learned that Laga had fully embraced the life of a G pop star. So she had a happy ending, and I'm glad for that.
yes,
Yes, Garman. Think Goblin Slayer, but for kobolds.
yes. He was very funny too, just because he was uh, honestly, if Kestrel was or Petrol was Batman, but taken to a ridiculous level, he was even more over the top than that. He was just like everyone around him could potentially be a kobold. You have to be on the lookout at any given point,
Yep.
and his logic is something to behold. Let's just say that.
He created what Black Bay eventually dubbed as Garmath. And Garmath was, oh, this is a simple way of telling if you're dealing with a kobold. And if they have certain combinations of qualities, including being very annoying, it was grounds to destroy them because they were probably dangerously kobold like. And after a while, I remember that we were having this kind of side conversation while the others were talking on the other side of the room. And Black Bay kind of has this light bulb moment where it's like, oh, I get it now. A kobold is really just another way of looking at like a thief or a ne'er do well. And Guardman's like, yes, now you understand. And suddenly, Black Bay just had a bucket helm materialize on his head with no explanation whatsoever. Oh, we had a. Well, I'm just gonna say it. It was Kazadon's father show up as essentially Schwarzbruder from G Gundam. And he was like, yes, we can now, unlock your true super secret potential and you can quit being useless. And Kaz is like, yeah, okay. And then he's like, okay, but if you're from now on, if you say the word bonus action, you will suffer the consequences. You have to go without using your bonus action. Very next fight. Very next fight, he invokes his bonus action. I mean, like, wow, a lack of self awareness.
Yeah, like not 15 minutes later, and he's like, and he tries to be cute about it too. He's like, and so my additional action, I'm like, did you not think that I was going to notice? Did you not think that that was going to count? And so his arm starts to have like these hairline fractures along it. It doesn't cause him damage, but it just from his fingers he starts to have these little hairline fractures like in a vase that's chipped. He's like, oh, that's weird. And he just, okay, so then I continue to use my bonus action, and then just the hairline fractures continue up until they start to reach his chest, and it's like, dude, look, out of character. But I thought, it's like, dude, I asked you if you would be willing to do this, and you said yes, and you're continuing to just blatantly ignore, the opportunity that I've given you. Are you? But that's not what my ability, dude. In order to gain great power, you have to train yourself, right? Well, no, you just have to get experience points. Oh my
That's the
god.
numerical abstraction of the same concept. That's what experience points are. It's the way you can track things like progressive growth over time or knowledge accumulated.
Mm-hmm.
And he had a hard time putting his head around that. And then, in order to illustrate his displeasure, our wise and noble GM Sama set up a gelatinous cube that had taken the monk class, specifically
Mm-hmm.
so he could use all of Kazadon's powers against him.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't that we weren't helping. We were busy with a much bigger encounter, like 50 feet away. So we really weren't in a position where we could go lend a hand. So we weren't doing it out of malice, but we also weren't in a hurry to get over to him. You know. You know how it is.
Yeah, I think you guys were fighting the not Wendigo at that
Yeah,
point, as I believe.
it was, because we were going to the old dwarven city.
And the funny thing was, is that, like, at that point, I was just like, you know what? I'm gonna laugh if because the entire thing is Kazadon's player is like a big like movie monster fan, which is partly why I was doing a lot of things I did. And I was just like, yes, come on, make assumptions about what this thing is. Go ahead. And it was like catching you guys off guard, which I was kind of surprised about. But um, I was not prepared for just I was not prepared for him to have gotten absolutely thrashed the way he did by the gelatinous cube monk.
Yep. It nearly killed him, as I recall.
Yeah. But I'm like, wow, I thought you would put up more of a fight and be more a little bit more tactical, but it's like, no, he just was like, I'm gonna punch it. It's like, are you kidding me? Really? You're not gonna like hang back? You're not gonna like analyze what it's doing? No, I'm just gonna hit it as hard as I can. It's like, it's not gonna work, but okay. He never did learn.
Nope. And, I think after that, the only thing that happened was the Gundam fight and our drow blowing himself up. Which,
Oh yeah, you encountered the Aarakocra, the other
oh, that's
Aarakocra.
right, that's right. I remember before the session, I was like, hey, Tutaku, did you realize that, like, based on the way he's playing his character and like, the way you're setting up the Aarakocra to imitate his mannerisms, they're the Gogobas. And Tutaku was like, what's a Gogoba? And I was like, okay, we need to sit down so I can show you this. And so we watched Sonic Boom, the first season, and he was like, "Oh my god, they are Go-Go-Buzz." Oh, it was beautiful.
Oh, no, you could just go. I mean, we'll just stay here. It's okay. We don't need any help. It's okay.
Yep.
Oh my
And that's
gosh.
how the Aarakocra were, because that's how Kazadon was.
Yeah.
And,
No, no, it's fine. I'll just stay here with my broken hopes and dreams and just.
yep. And, meanwhile, Black Bay and Garman were riding the wave to victory. And Black Bay had even picked up his future wife, though he wasn't aware that she was yet, though she knew full well.
Well, yes.
Black Bay was a
No, my
little
lady.
dense.
No, my lady. You must understand. My glory comes to my family, for they are the ones who raised me to such greatness. I'm gonna marry that man. What? Nothing.
Wait, what'd you say? No, nothing.
Yeah.
Okay, I
So,
swore for a moment you said something. Blackbeard's a fun character. I'll need to bring him back someday.
Boss
Or
fight, boss fight, boss fight, boss fight, boss fight.
his kids, more likely.
Yeah.
And yeah, that campaign kind of ended after the Gundam fight, and we saved the Aarakocra, but heaven help me, I don't know why.
Because you were going to sell them stuff, as I recall.
Oh, that's right. I forced them into a really one-sided trade negotiation because Black Bay was so tired of putting up with them. He's like, "Okay, I'll save you. Sign on the dotted line." They're like, "But I don't." It's like, "Oh gosh, sure. You sure don't care about your village being on fire, do you? I'd hurry up and sign if I were you." And he's like, "Oh, okay, if you put it like that."
Yeah. Yep.
Yep. And the campaign ended not too long after, and I think after that was cards.
Mm-hmm. But you know what? Let's save cards for next time.